Hey guys, bit of a different video for you here. So this is just a heads up and a warning about what this is. I tried streaming the Chitty-Chat cast whenever it was I tried to stream that. That date will be down below right here. And this is basically an edited version of that because for some odd reason streaming didn't go quite well. So this is all the parts and pieces put together, edited together. So all the stops and pauses and technical jargon that I might be saying is cut out. So this is an edited version, but you're not really missing things. There will be parts that are missing, such as for this case, talk about the celebrity birthday, as well as a bit of updates happening in my life. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that file, it was too corrupted. So, sorry about that, but everything else is there, especially the meat and potatoes of the stream, so I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, please feel free to comment down below, anything about this podcast, so yeah, enjoy! Hey yo, everyone, and welcome to the Chitty-Chat cast. I am your host, Lego MacGyver, others known as Chris Ringenberg. Welcome to the podcast dedicated to talking about random stuff because why not? This week we have a very interesting topic that I am really interested to get into. I already have all my answers down. I thought about it beforehand just because I didn't want it to be a little ho-hum little bit once we get into the meat and potatoes of the stream. But it should be exciting. Where I asked you guys for some if we were stranded on a deserted island questions. Post them to me. I got a couple back, as long as a couple that I already had and looked up, and one for the reason why I was doing the stream. But before we could do that, we of course have to do the quote for this week's stream, which for some of you who were at the last stream will recognize that, hey, we have yet another one about Captain Jack Sparrow. This one comes from, I believe, the first movie, which is a conversation between Will Turner and Gibbs, so please bear with me for my very terrible impressions. How did Jack get off the island? Well, I'll tell ye. He went out into the shadows and waited there 3 days and 3 nights till all manner of sea creatures came acclimated to his presence. And on the 4th morning he roped himself a couple of sea turtles, lashed them together and made a raft. He roped a couple of sea turtles? Aye, sea turtles. Of course, many of you will understand this famous way of Jack Sparrow getting off the island. Roped a couple of sea turtles together. Now you may be thinking, how did he rope a couple of sea turtles? Aha, that was with his hair, his back hair, he says, which sounds very weird. Is it actually his back hair or the back of his hair? Because it's very interesting, especially how much hair one might have upon their back, especially after only a couple days on this island. But then again, he is a pirate, so we don't think too much about it. Anyways, we'll continue on with our little tradition of starting off the podcast, but going through movies for the years I've been alive, and this year we're up to 1994. So, just to preface, from here on out, seeing that we're getting into years where there's a ton more movies, I'm going to be limiting myself to about somewhere between 10 and 15 of them, just because there might be a absolute ton that I've seen. So I'm just going to be shouting out a lot of my all-time favorites or ones that I would highly suggest as well. Maybe a couple lesser known ones, a couple hidden gems that you guys might like. So yes, this year 1994, we're starting off with Leon the Professional, starring Jean Reno and Natalie Portman in a very young role. It's a very interesting movie about, I don't really know if Leon is like a hitman per se, but he's a very trained sniper, I believe. And it's very interesting in the mannerism of how he lives out his life and where it is he lives and how he gets interacted in with this business with Gary Oldman, who has a wonderful performance with so many quotable lines like, I'm sick and tired of this Mickey Mouse BS, because we want to keep this a mature stream and everything. So yeah, oh, it's so good. It's very quotable. The ending, ooh, that hits you. Hits you right there. And even most of the movie is so good. And just the way it's shot and everything that happens, it's really good. Especially one for, there's not a lot of, like, it's not one of those where it's, like, constant with dialogue. So, we were still doing the movie, so jumping back in, we were talking about one of Keanu Reeves' early appearances into cinema world, and especially one of action, adventure, and everything like that. And that is Speed, also starring Sandra Bullock. Very, very great movie. The wonderful premise. Dennis Hopper also being in there about the bus that can't go under 55 miles per hour, otherwise it explodes. Oh, it's so riveting. Oh, and there's always this constant suspense in there of can they keep the bus over 55 miles per hour? Can they get everybody off of the bus? Or can they defuse the bomb? Or how is it that they can do it? And just when you think it's done, it's not, and it keeps going again. Oh, it's such a thrill ride that keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's so good. Oh, moving on, we have James Spader and Kurt Russell bringing us the premiere movie will lead to many seasons, many iterations. I think it's proper term iterations. Is Stargate. Of course, James Spader playing this sort of historian scientist type person. Kurt Russell playing, of course, hard military general, and they find this alien Stargate. They go through and find themselves in an Egyptian-like landscape world, and they have to figure out if people are friendly or not, whether to blow it up or not, and so on and so forth. Super good. The music in there is also really nice. James Spader, you really want to picture that that's James Spader, Bush, because nowadays he's the guy off of Blacklist and Ultron, towards more of his voice, and he doesn't really have that characteristic voice now. He still has this huge mop of hair and everything with glasses. You really wouldn't realize it. Even Kurt Russell, because he has that like close military shave, more of like almost a flat top, and it's really good. Um, I would I would suggest that if you're more into like the sci-fi. I've been one of those where I've also wanted to watch the series Stargate for a long time, partially because there's Richard Dean Anderson, who was the original MacGyver. But the fact is that it's not on Netflix, and I haven't checked to see if it's on something like Hulu or Amazon Prime or anything. Partially because number one, I wouldn't be able to keep up with the monthly payments because of I'm a college kid. I have to pay for college stuff first. So there's that, and the fact that yeah, it just seems like a very interesting premise. Sort of like, I don't want to say like an American Doctor Who, but a little more of like a plausible traveling to worlds interdimensionally or whatever. It's very interesting. Another one from this year, starring. Oh shoot, I don't even know if I know his. I think it's Macaulay Culkin. I'm going to double check it just to make sure I'm not talking out of my butt here. But this is a really good one, which also starred. Hold on. Here we go. Alright. Edward Herrmann. Yes, it is Macaulay Culkin. Also starring Edward Herrmann for many people might know him as Mr. Gilmore off of the show Gilmore Girls. This is the movie Richie Rich. Of course, Macaulay Culkin playing Richie, to where evil butler person decides, you know what? I want to take over the family riches and everything. Tries to crash the plane for the wife and husband, leaving Richie with his it's other butler. His butler is the one who stays there, and it's like their lawyer person who wants the fortune and everything. And Richie takes over the business while his parents are gone, and makes a bunch of these friends, have some wonderful hijinks. It's almost Home Alone esque, except almost the opposite. It's almost like they have to break back into their own home instead of keep people from getting in. It's very interesting, very good. I do know Netflix picked it up as like a series that they redid, but I've heard it's absolutely terrible. I haven't looked into it yet at all. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's very much one of those, like, when you see it as a kid, that's who you want to be. You want to be the rich kid who can get everything he wants and everything. Oh, super good. Next one being Mighty Ducks 2, or D2 as it's more better known. This is the one to, I believe, I better look it up. I can never remember. The first one I always remember perfectly, but it's the second one that I can't remember if it's the one they go to the Olympics or they go to college. Um, in Bombay. Yes. Alright, yes. I believe this is the one where they go to like quote unquote college, or they go to the special hockey school or whatever and everything, because it's the third one I believe where they actually get to the Olympics. Because Bombay, Emilio Estevez, went to coach the US team in the second one, and then I think the Ducks actually become part of the US team in the third one. I could be wrong, please correct me if I am. It's been a very long time since I've seen the sequels. Of course, the first one I've seen many, many, many times. Next one being Clear and Present Danger. This being the second iteration of Harrison Ford playing Jack Ryan, based off the popular Tom Clancy series. Very interesting. Has a person who looks a lot like Sean Bean in it, who isn't Sean Bean, who I always mix up for that because Sean Bean's in the first one. It's not as good as the first one, I think. There's a lot of like Colombian drug lord dealings, I think, in this second one, but I could be wrong there. Another Disney movie that came out this year, much like Richie Rich, was a movie called Blank Check. Basically, a kid, it's his bike run over by a rich prick. The guy decides that I don't have time just here, just take this check and everything, but doesn't write out a dollar amount for the bike that he ruined. So this kid decides, okay, and he just writes this massive check and cashes it in, and it goes through because of how much this rich prick has and everything. And then it's this kid basically just taking this money, using it for his own good. It's one of those, he doesn't want to be at home. He doesn't like his parents and everything and whatnot. So just this kid going through the whole hums of life, like, ugh, I don't get what I want, and now I can, so I'm gonna do it. And yeah, it's very interesting. It's definitely one of those early 90s sort of Disney type movies of give a kid, put him into a situation, and have it resolved where he goes back to what he had before because it was better type things. Very interesting. I would definitely look it up. I believe it is on Netflix as of right now, but that could have been taken off when the new month came. So double check on that. Next one I saw on VHS because I was wondering where I could find it. I watched it because of Christopher Lloyd. This is Camp Nowhere, where Christopher Lloyd is basically brought to be the supervisor of a whole bunch of kids and teenagers who decide that, hey, there's this camp that we just want to have fun and hijinks and everything, but we have to have this supervisor over it. So they said, okay, we'll get this Christopher Lloyd character who sort of just sleeps around, drinks beer, and just doesn't care what they do type person. So they think, perfect. So they get him, and the whole movie is about them being in this camp and everything and their interactions together. It's very, very hilarious. Another Macaulay Culkin one coming out this year. Very popular early 90s Culkin was. This was Pagemaster, also starring Christopher Lloyd as the Pagemaster. This kid is in this library late one night when it's raining and falls into a book. And the whole thing is he meets up with these other like personified books and everything that walk around and help him. He has to find this page master, and it's really interesting. It's very much one of those like a librarian's dream or like a reader's dream to like actually become into a book and live it out. And it's really, really good. I haven't seen it in ages, but it's amazing. This year was also the year that Tim Allen came out as Santa Claus in the Santa Claus with the E, because he finds Santa and therefore, in seeing Santa, then must become the next Santa, as is the Santa Claus. Very interesting. The first one is definitely one that I don't think is as popular as the sequels. The third one I don't think as much as the second one. I think it's definitely second is better than first, but the first and second is better than the third, possibly. Of course, it's been ages since I've seen the third one, but the second one I remember being the one that was on most and being the most memorable. Which is very interesting, seeing into like the life of Santa and everything, and like what would happen if somebody had to become him, his interactions with people and whatnot. It's very interesting, and I definitely think it's one of those Christmas movies that sort of, I don't want to say becomes a classic, but I think it ranks up there with sort of originality that people sort of find and hold dear. Other two this year is this is 94, so 10. This is the 23rd anniversary of The Lion King. That's why it has come out on the big, spectacular, ultra, mega, super Blu-ray edition that my girlfriend just went absolutely crazy for last weekend. Um, Lion King comes out. I mean, what more is to say? Everybody's seen it. Everybody loves it. I mean, oh, it's such a great movie. The music in there is wonderful. A lot of it done by Elton John. The voices and voice actors they have in there are hilarious. Every moment strikes right when it needs to. You feel what you need to when they want you to. It's excellently done. A masterpiece. Definitely one deserving of the Disney Vault. The last one here is one I had never heard of, but one that the popular podcast Sincast, which I cannot stress enough to you guys. If you guys enjoy CinemaSins on YouTube, or you just love movie talk, Sincast is the podcast for you. With about an hour and a half to 2 hour episodes, it's amazing stuff to listen to. The insight you get into things is amazing, stuff that I've never would have thought of or never knew. Movies that I've seen that I never would have before. This was one of their favorites coming from 1994, sorry. That is The Hudsucker Proxy, starring Tim Robbins and Paul Newman and Jessica Jason Leigh, I think. And it's basically about the owner of this company, Hudsucker Industries, basically decides, you know what, I've lived my life as well as I want to and everything, and decides to jump off of the super high window and kills himself. And so they decide, what are we going to do? It's the beginning of the new year and everything. We have all of it, the new year is coming in just a couple days and weeks. It's like, what are we going to do? It's like, our stocks are amazing right now. It's like, what are we going to do? And it's like, well, you know, there's a lot of money in that stocks, and we own 51% of it. So 50%. So as long as we buy up the rest of the stock, all we need to do is just buy it all up before this date. So we need somebody to come in and just stop again. Why did it stop? It's only going for like 15 minutes at a time. We're just going to plow on through. So the question that I proposed earlier from CinemaSins for if you're on a deserted island, which 3 versions of a character would you have? We're going to say for later, we're going to do a couple other ones. We're going to do the first one that was actually written to me on Facebook and commented. I don't know the person's name, unfortunately. I wrote it down, but when I went back to the message to find it, they had taken off of their reply. So, first one was, if you were stuck on a deserted island, what would be your first concern and why? And they listed a couple of things: shelter, fire, water, food, or protection. And upon thinking about it a little bit, I think it was mainly between 2 of them. It's either going to be either between shelter or fire. And for a couple reasons. First one, out of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out of those 5, those seemed like the slightly more important ones for reasons like water is one of those to where if I'm on a deserted island, no matter where I am, island means I'm surrounded by water, unless I'm a floating island in the sky, in which case it's air. But more times than not, it's water, because we don't have any floating sky islands here in the world. That'd be weird, that'd be crazy, and if there is, please tell me where it is and how I can get there, because that'd be awesome. And I want to know how it's staying floating. So, water isn't an issue. And even if it's salt water, all you have to do is boil the salt out of it. Or capture water in such a way to where you only get the condensation of something, or you're only getting the pure water. If it rains, you have water as well. So the water isn't so much of an issue as long as you can treat it to where it's drinkable, because you really can't drink salt water. It's not good for you at all. It will actually, I believe, dehydrate you quicker. So that's not so much of an issue if I can get the fire for it. Food would be a bit of an issue. Depends upon things like what plants are on the island, if there's animals on the island. How did I crash there? Do I already have provisions? Can I make anything? So a lot of those issues I would have to go out and search for, but might already be handled. Like if it's an island, depending on where it is, there's usually some sort of tropical trees, usually of some sort. So there might be fruits like pineapple or coconuts that I can use, and as much as I might not enjoy either one of those, in a desperate situation, I would probably just bite the bullet and eat them. So those two would be viable options. If there are animals, I would have to hunt them down and kill them and cook them and da 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 da. But that would be something I would have to do. Anyways, if there are actually animals, like I said again, if there's water, therefore that usually means there's some sort of aquatic life. Unless it's some man-made island somewhere with man-made water, in which they might not have put water life in there, in which case would be a problem. But fishing would be an idea, or spearfishing. So there is that could possibly solve that as well. So food is one of those to where it might be solved, but it might also not. I might be on an island with no edible plantation that I know of, or that I can see. There might be no animals. There might be nothing washed up on shore with me from however I crashed. There might not be any fish for some odd reason. So there's a possibility of that being an issue. Protection, I sort of throw in with shelter, unless protection means like self-defense or protection, in which case it might mean something like a spear or a bow and arrow, a sword or a knife or something like that. And I see that only really being an issue if there is a need for it. If there are like offensive animals or carnivorous animals that would be hunting me, then that would be an issue if there are actually those types of animals, any animals at all on the island. If there are any other human inhabitants on the island, like any savages, cannibals, or something of that sort, then well, that would also be an issue. But the idea of that happening in this day and age, I think, is very small, unless you're more southern in the world, possibly, or on an undiscovered island, possibly. But I think most inhabitants of deserted islands at this point have gone a little beyond that, and the fact that depending on the size of the island, I have to either find them or they have to find me. So, depending on how big the island is, where they are, and how many of them, that might not be an issue either. If there are other inhabitants, they might not even be aggressive either. To where the protection part, I don't see being as much of an issue as what fire and shelter is. Fire mainly for the fact that fire is your buddy. It's your best buddy. Depending on where you are, it's giving you warmth. It's giving you light. It can, boil the water for you to get the water that you need. It can cook your food so you're not eating something like raw meat, which can be disgusting and might have diseases in it. With fish, possible mercury poisoning, depending on where you are in the world, maybe. And the fact that it's just a little better for you, you get that like charred like flavor for things, so you're not just eating the same old, same old. Fire can also be your saving grace because depending on the type of fire, it might be a signal fire to where the smoke might signal for rescue for you. To where it's so many things it can do for you. And the other one being shelter, which being that depending on where you are, on what island, circumstances of the landscape and everything, that where you set up your shelter could be very effective. Depending on where you build it, like say a beach, then you have to protect yourself from wind, you have to protect yourself from the ocean. If there are aggressive animals out there, you have to do that. I think the stream might be stopping soon because the numbers at the top have stopped. Dang it. Nope, they're still going. There's that. Otherwise, if it's like a cave, you have to defend against either aggressive animals or anything. That the shelter is very advantageous. That it protects you from the outside elements, possible animals, possible other inhabitants of your island. It's a place to store things, to keep things, preserve stuff, um, give you like close comfort, depending on how big it is, give you some idea of home. Might also be something that people be like, oh, what's that hut doing on this island that wasn't there before? And might invest it to where those two I figure are some of your one of my first concerns is either fire or shelter. Probably maybe fire first and then going on to the shelter. Because if I can make the fire, I can quote unquote take that anywhere I need to. The shelter, if I'm making a shelter, I'm probably only going to do it once or do it in one spot, and that's going to be it. I'm not going to just move up shop like a tent normally. Unless I find a better place, something more advantageous like that, then maybe I will. But normally, if you stake up claim for shelter, you do it once and then you're done. So those would be my first two concerns. My next one would probably be food. Just because if I can get shelter or fire, if I can get one of those two, I feel like I'm set for a little while. Because with the fire, I feel like I'm good at least on the front for water. Water is something you need a lot more than food. You can die of thirst much quicker than you can die of starvation of food. So I feel like if I can at least get that water part, then I'm good to where it's a bit lower on my end, because more likely I'm surrounded by water. If there are streams on this island, then that might be already clean water, or water I just need to distill by cooking it. So that could be solved as well. Food would be my third issue, or possibly second, if I can at least get fire. If I can get fire, then move on to food, because depending on where I am and the weather conditions, shelter might not be that big of an issue. Like, shelter might not be an issue if the climate and weather isn't that bad. If there are no aggressive inhabitants or animals, then I don't need so much protection from that. To if I have fire, then I'm probably going to keep a lot of things at bay already. So, food would be the next one. Water and protection vying for last. So for that question, that's how I would go about it. I have to be super careful with my coffee because I filled it up too much. Ooh. Ooh. I should have been worried about spilling it, just worried about how hot it was. Ooh. So, next one, a very popular one, would be, if you were stuck on a deserted island, what would be the one, and this is about 3 different ones hooked together. No, it's just, 3 different ones hooked together. Which were individual ones. It is, what would be the one TV show you would bring with you, or what would be the one movie you would have with you, or one book you would have with you. Of course, this is fine that if you have this movie or TV show, you then have some way to watch it. That being given with its computer, an iPod, a laptop, some handheld DVD player device or something. I don't know. Somehow you have it. So that's the point. It's just wondering which one it is. So for TV show, it would be, now that I think about it, be vying for one of two. It would either be all of Mythbusters or all of MacGyver for multiple reasons. Number one, I greatly enjoy both shows. They would keep me happy. They would keep me, I don't want to say like calm, but they would keep me distracted. That would be a big one. They keep me distracted from the terrors of being stuck on a deserted island and and so on and so forth. To where they would keep me entertained, they would keep me laughing, and distracted once I have myself settled down, obviously. I'm not just gonna be on a deserted island and be like, okay, bring up episode 1 of this series and just start watching it and not do anything for myself, like get water or food or shelter or any of that. Those would be the ones, because number one, they would be great entertainment for me. But number two is of the content. Is a lot of the time, those would be very advantageous because in MacGyver's case, you're taking something that normally wouldn't be used and you're turning it into something else, which is great when you're on a deserted island. Like, how am I going to use the tools of sticks and leaves and sand and stones to help me live? And I think between MacGyver and Mythbusters and everything, that would help, because there would be certain things like, okay, how can I manipulate this? Okay, I can use it for this or this. Oh, that's a great idea. I'll use it this way. To where it would, yeah, help stimulate my mind to think beyond the box of, alright, I have sticks and stones. Alright, what if I combine the two? Or how do I take elements of both to create something else? Or how are they best used separately? And so on, to where I think either one of those would be very advantageous in entertainment, content, um, and yeah, that it's one of those to where there's a lot of each of them that I wouldn't necessarily be rewatching things all the time. There's like at least 7 seasons of MacGyver of about 12 to 20 episodes each. So there's a lot of runtime there with them being 40 minutes. With Mythbusters, with them being their 40 to 50 minutes, and there's sometimes longer specials. They went on for like almost 15 seasons. So there's a lot there too that would be advantageous just for, yeah, keeping me entertained without being like, oh, I've seen this one for the 4th time this week or something like that. So those would be my two, either MacGyver or Mythbusters. And I think given on the day, it might be I want this one more than this one or this one more than the other. So it'd be one of those two I would want to have taken with me. For a movie, though, it's pretty straightforward. It would be The Martian. For many reasons. And this also answers the second one of what book would I take with me. And that would also be The Martian. For basically the reason why I'm stuck on a deserted island is The Martian, for those who have not read it, this book is amazing. The book is, better than the movie, but the movie does it great justice. So if I would give this book a 10, that movie is at least a 9, in my opinion. This book is amazing, and a lot of people might think, oh, it's Robinson Crusoe on Mars or something. And it sort of is, but it's better, because if you don't know about it, because you've been living under a rock, or you just haven't known about it, it's about Mark Rotney, who was a part of manned mission to Mars. He and his team were up there when a storm comes, and through circumstances, he gets stuck on Mars as his team begins to fly back to Earth. And everybody thinks he's dead. He has no communication to Earth or to his ship of crewmates. And he has to survive. Luckily, Mark is a botanist, as well as an astronaut. And so, my favorite line from him is, I'm going to have to science the S out of this, is awesome because he literally survives. I can't remember exactly how long. I want to say it's like 2 years, or it's either 2 Earth years or about 2 Martian years, because a soul, which is 1 day on Mars, is I think like a day and a half on Earth. It's a little longer or a little shorter. I can't remember. I want to say it's either like 21 hours or it's like 27 hours. I want to say there's like a 3-hour difference maybe between an Earth day and a Martian day. And yeah, it's about Mark having to survive and adapting the hab, which is his living environment, adapting that to survive on this desolate planet all by himself with no communication to Earth, and Earth finding out, oh crap, we left somebody alive on Mars. How do we get him to keep living until we can either bring him home or wait to send more people there to then bring him home in a couple of years' time? And it's so good, it's so riveting that even though it's in space and it deals a lot with science and everything, it's super easy to understand. There comes a point to where he's doing math and science and stuff, and he creates a unit of measurement for something. And he calls it like pirate ninjas or something. Something very humorous and easy to understand that you understand it. And you're rooting for him and everything the entire way. And oh, it's so good. To where I would want this book and or movie because I think a lot of it is for the mindset. It's like, okay, we're both stuck. Granted, he's in more dire circumstances than I am, but I think it would deal a lot with how he deals with things, and the humor in there is so rich and so good. If you don't read the book for the science, read it for the humor, because it's wonderful. I mean, I'm trying to remember how the first page goes. It's yeah. The first line is, "I'm pretty much effed." For any of you to get a sense of like the humor and the hilarity of this, it's really good, and it's not foul mouthed either. There's a couple of times where he lets a word or two slip, but given the circumstances of being stuck on Mars by yourself, I think it sort of makes up for it. And yeah, the way he sort of MacGyver's his way about and sort of thinks about things outside of what they would normally be used for, I think would be very insightful and helpful in that fact, as well as yeah, sort of like keep rooting for myself, don't give up and everything. Right. So sorry for this piecemeal of a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But hopefully in the future things will be sorted out and everything will be going all right. So I'm just going to finish off this podcast with everything and continue on from there. Hopefully doing better next time. So continuing on with our island questions, next one would be, if you're stuck on a deserted island, what would be the one, or the other question being, what 3 things would you bring with you? Now, for just the one, obviously duct tape. And I'll talk about the 3 together because the duct tape is also one of the 3. It would be duct tape, a Swiss Army knife, and a solar-powered iPod. Or basically, an infinite battery iPod with all the music I listen to on it. For the reasons why. Number 1, the duct tape. It's duct tape. It can literally be used for anything and everything. Point being, look up the Mythbusters Stuck on a Deserted Island with Only Duct Tape video. And you can literally see you can do anything with it and make everything with it. So, case in point, it's super useful for literally everything. For getting water, for getting food, shelter, clothes, entertainment, everything that I'd need or would need could be solved with duct tape. Of course, if I have a single roll, might not be able to do as much as if I just had an unlimited supply of it. But duct tape would definitely be one because it would solve a lot of things either early on for me or maybe later on. The other one being a Swiss Army knife because of its multiple functions. Its different blades for cutting into things if I need to. Um, Scissors for small things. There's a little fishing attachment on it. There's tweezers in case I get like splinters or spines or something stuck in me, or I need to like descale a fish or something maybe. There's a lot of different things on there that would be very useful for me. Yeah, just be used different ways. If I needed a blade because I couldn't find a pointed rock for hunting or something, I could use that for skinning or cutting things up. It'd be super useful there too. The other one being the iPod for music because if I'm stuck on a deserted island and I need there to be, oh, there's a spider outside my window. I need there to be noise. Like I'm not one who likes being in complete quiet all the time. I like being able to listen to something, whether it's like rainymood.com and I'm just listening to the sounds of a storm or it raining, or if I'm listening to actual music, I like to listen to something. Having an iPod to just play music either out loud or if there's earbuds with it to listen to, I think would be very advantageous just so I don't lose my mind. Like, did I hear that or something? To where it'd be nice to be able to, I don't know, like maybe comfort myself, but at least having something to distract myself or be singing along to, and just keeping me slightly distracted and giving me something to listen to besides the breeze or the ocean or maybe the creepy sounds of animals at night in the jungle or something or whatever. You know, it'd be nice to, yeah, be able to listen to that and enjoy. That way I just don't get stir crazy. But the one item would be just the duct tape if I had to only bring one. The same sort of question would be, if you're stuck on a desert island, what would be the one person? And I know some people do 3 people, but then they usually involve celebrities. So we're not going to go into that. So So it is, what would be the one person, either real or fictional, that you would want to have with you? So going off first with fictional, of course, it would either be MacGyver, either Richard Dean Anderson or the new Lucas Till version of him, either MacGyver or Robinson Crusoe, whether probably more likely like the Pierce Brosnan version, but the inhabitant of Robinson Crusoe, whether it's super old version of back in ye olde times of when he shipwrecked on an island, or like a modern version of him. Just because Robinson Crusoe, if you don't know the book, it's but little about a guy who gets stranded on an island and has to live there for like 7 years, I think. And he literally lives there for that amount of time. Um, but of course, yeah, if you can understand and read the style of it, it's quite a book to get through, just because of the way it's written. But he survives, and I think it would be very advantageous just to understand, okay, what to do, how to do it, when and why, how to go about it, and everything to literally be able to survive and keep going at everything. Um, I think it'd be very advantageous to have. Other one being MacGyver, just because he can help me turn nothing into something, and whether that's with a Swiss Army knife or some duct tape or literally a whole bunch of paper clips. I think it would be very advantageous just to help me see, okay, how to take this situation and alter it to my advantage. Um, just because he would also be very calm and collected and everything. We might be stranded on a deserted island, but he'd be like, all right, I know how to get us out of this and everything. And the gears would always be constantly turning in his head, and I think he would be a great asset to have. Um, for a real person though, it's not actually like a Bear Grylls person, though he would be a good person to have, that I think about it. But no, it would actually be my friend Zach Boneshans. And of course, at this point, I'm not live streaming it for him to put his input in here, which is very disappointing. But I'd have my great friend Zach the Bone Killer Boneshans. For if you don't know who he is, go check his channel out from the link in the description below. He's awesome. He's super cool. And yeah, his YouTube channel is awesome as well. Go check him out for all of that sort of content there. Super awesome. He's one of my best friends, but he's definitely one of those to where he would know how to survive and everything and be at my same level of mindset to where we'd be able to understand things. He would know, okay, here's how we're going to get fire. Here's how we're going to get the food. Here's how we're going to do this, that, and the other thing. He would have an idea. He might even have his like 12 knives and blades he keeps on at all times, or a firearm. Like, you never know what Zach is carrying on him at one point. Sometimes it's unbelievable. Like, he'll have 3 blades, 3 pocket knives. He'll have like a super long blade. He'll have, a emergency kit full of string and other stuff with him. It's ridiculous and everything. That's why he's awesome. Is we would just be like, okay, well, we'll take this, and boom, we've made it into 20 other different things and everything. We'd be able to think along the same mindset of like, okay, we understand what we need to do. You do this, I'll do this, and we could just tag team things. Or we'll be like, okay, let's build this, and we'll both be like, okay, we understand that. And we'll be able to go about doing it and everything. And we're best buds to where we'll be able to keep each other great company, keep each other motivated and everything. To where, yeah. If I was stranded, I would definitely want my friend Zach with me. Which brings me to the next question, which is, if you were stuck on a deserted island, would you rather be stuck with a whole lot of other people, such as in the case of the TV show Lost? Would you rather be stuck with only a few people, these people being your friends, or would you want to be alone? And immediately off the bat, I'm throwing out I wouldn't want to be with a whole lot of others for many reasons. Number one, that if they're especially people I don't know, therefore, in my opinion, they are unpredictable. I don't know how they're going to go about things and their mindsets. To where I don't know if I'm stuck on an island with a whole bunch of psychopathic serial killers, for instance, or people who are just going to go stir crazy and go mad within the first week or so, and everything. To where usually within a whole bunch of people, there's usually a hierarchy that exists. There's usually somebody who takes charge, whether they're a good person or a bad person. Then there's people underneath him who are always trying to either be him or be goody goody, like, oh yeah, I'm friends with the captain or the leader. It's like, yeah, I'm his best friend and everything. I get all the good food and whatnot. That I don't want there to be this social structure that is like the norm for it. It's like, okay, we have to follow him, we have to do everything he says and everything. Sure, it might be very organized, but it might also be very disorganized and dysfunctional, that there might be a lot of tension or like collision between people or factions and everything, or people might go crazy and everything and turn on you at any which moment, to where there's a lot of variables that exist the more people you get in. So like with two people, you therefore have a 50% chance of this person going crazy or this person not going crazy. You add another person in, while the chance for either one of them being crazy lessens, but the chance for both of them also increases, in a way to where the more and more people you get, the more and more probability that they might, or that the majority of them would be won't, but there's still a chance for them to all be. I don't think I'm thinking about that correctly. But your chances of survival, it fluctuates depending on how things happen and how they go. To where I think I would either want to be with a few people, and if they were my friends, I think I'd be able to do it. That's because I think we would all have an understanding of what to do, how to do it. That there might be some tensions, like, I don't want to do this, or why are you bossing me around, to where it might be a very dysfunctional organization, but I think it would still be better than a whole bunch of people. I think around 5 to 7 people, I think we'd be able to work. It would then just be like which friends, and then you start to get things like emotional things, like how long are we on this island? Are we going to get saved? How do people perceive this? How do relationships? How are they affected between each other? What things are pushed to the limits? To where, yeah, if it's things to where, all right, how do like love relationships? How are they taken and everything? To what point? How are they, put to the limits? Um, to where, yeah, depending on the friends and how long and everything, it might help at first, but in the end, it might falter out a little bit. And I think that would be my more worries, to where if somebody, like, with being alone, if somebody dies, it's only yourself. If you're in a large group of people, there's a chance of lots of people dying, and the emotional reactions that go along with that. Or with your close friends, then, well, that's going to hit you even harder. To where being alone, your chance of survival is wholly relied upon yourself. And if you can survive by yourself, then great. If you can't, then if you die, then tough noogies for yourself. But there's not other people on this island then having to live with that and not getting off the island either. Or if somebody finds you years later, back at home they find you died, then there'll be some sadness there, but it won't be so impactful as if it was on that actual island. So I'm just trying to drink the rest of the coffee while it's still warm. So that would be it. Either there are few friends, depending on which ones they are, or either alone. Um, just because of some of those reasons and everything. Another one was, if you're stranded on a deserted island, what would be the one food you would bring that would last you months? Basically, one thing to bring with you, but it might only be the one thing, like what I mentioned before. Depending on the island, there might not be any food there. So this is either in that situation, or there might be food on the island. But this food that you take with you, you have it for at least many months. And so I got thinking about it, and of course you might immediately think, okay, what's the one thing I most enjoy? So I might be like, okay, I most enjoy strawberry shortcake, Swiss cake rolls. Be like, awesome, I have like an unlimited supply for a couple months. Well, and you have to take into things like, okay, how quickly am I going to not like the taste of it? How quickly am I going to not like them anymore? To where it's like, okay, I'm eating like a couple a day for every day for a couple of weeks or something, or even once a day for a while, I'm going to get sick of them pretty quickly because it's a very specific flavor and taste that I don't eat a whole lot as is right now. To where the problem is with some things, especially sweets, is if you're not keeping proper hygiene, oral hygiene with teeth and what you eat and everything, as well as exercise, things are going to hamper you more than help. So it's like certain sweets, it's like, okay, if all you're eating is that, that's not going to be helpful for you. To where if you're eating something you really like and you eat a lot of it, it's like the saying goes, too much of a good thing is bad for you. You're going to eventually not like it anymore. Towards like, okay. The other thing to think about is if I have a whole lot of this for a lot of months, what would be most helpful? And that would be things that either give you probably the carbs, so energy, or protein, depending on where you are as well. Because if you're not on an island with meat or fish or something like that, you're going to need some of that to help stay strong and keep you going, even if you have an unlimited supply of wheat that you can magically make into bread. To where, if I was stuck on the island, I would either want either steak, either good meat that I know I like, or either like assorted bagels, whether that's blueberry or cinnamon raisin or plain, or sesame, or even like onion. If there's just an assorted amount of bagels I can eat, those are really good for like carbs and everything like that, where they're going to help give you energy. They're very filling as well. Even if you only eat half of them, you can toast them. You can eat them plain. If there's berries or something on the island, you can make that into like a spread for it. You can put meat in between it to make it a sandwich. It's very versatile. And I think if there's like an assortment of there, maybe I can only bring one flavor though, which would suck. And maybe I would keep it as plain bagels because it's already a plain normal taste. And if I end up not liking it, it's just still going to be that same taste. And it's not going to be like, oh, I don't like the taste of blueberries anymore. It's just plain, which I think would be fine. But if it's an assorted amount of bagels, then hey, more for me just cycle them through and everything, and I'll be fine. But yeah, they're very versatile as well. And they give you the carbs and energy you need. Either that or like something like steak, something to give you protein and everything. Something to also like keep you chewing and keep your mouth going to where your teeth don't get bad either. I think would be good because steak, of course, you would need fire to cook it. But I think if you can get the fire, then you don't really have much of an issue. It also solves your meat problem. So that's what I would do. So we're going to end it with the question of why I decided to do this as the topic for the podcast, which is if you were stuck in an island and with three versions of the same actor, who would it be that would be trapped on this island with you? Of course, in quotes, for life. So I really think this is interesting because it's like, all right, what three versions of an actor? So basically, what three portrayals in movies would you want stuck on the island with you? And I'm pretty sure the first one off the top of my head, at least for one or two, for at least two of them, I know I'm stealing, is Matt Damon. First one being for Mark Watney from The Martian, because he's a botanist, he can help me get food and help me survive. He can keep me going, give me the motivation that's awesome. The other one would be Jason Bourne, because he'd be able to help toughen me up, help me go hunt and things like that, and help my mental resolve. The same, I would also then sort of choose for the same reason Carol Tucker for Titan AE for the same reasons. Of course, Matt Damon voice actors him, but he's still quote unquote playing that character. So I would also have him just for like the tales of space and everything and whatnot there, sort of his cocky attitude, to be a little more lighthearted as well. So those would be my three. Um, Other one I thought of would be Pierce Brosnan as the role of James Bond. His portrayal of Robinson Crusoe, as well as Remington Steele. Just because Robinson Crusoe, hey, he's been on a desert island. He can help me survive and everything. James Bond, he can, like help me train or whatever, be in peak physical condition, teach me the tricks of the trade, help go hunting and stuff like that. as well as being a guy that I really love and enjoy, to where it'd be nice to interact with him. Um, and then Remington Steele just being a very like Sherlock sort of guy who like knows everything, not quite to the point of like MacGyver to where I could just he could help me make anything out of anything, but a guy to help like stimulate my mind, keep me entertained and everything like that, with riddles and such and humor. So I would also pick him. Otherwise, the one I thought about it for a while would be Liam Neeson, and the more I thought about it, the more I really enjoyed it. And that would be him as Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars, Art Otway from the movie The Grey, as well as Aslan the Lion from Chronicles of Narnia. And I really liked it because like Aslan's a lion, it's like he sort of gives you that like pet mentality. Like if you have a pet, it's like, oh, this is an animal that I have control of, and is it going to kill me or eat me or something like that? So it's like, okay, I like him because it's like, okay, he's furry, I can interact with him. He's also very spiritual, in a way, to where he'd be able to be like, hey, things are going to be alright and whatnot and everything there. He'd also help me hunt because he's a lion, which would be very useful. Otway from the Gray is a survival like setting to where I think he might be able to help me be like, all right, we need lumber for shelter and everything, or this is how we'll hunt, to where he'd be a very on your toes sort of guy to be like, okay, here's what we need to do, here's how we're going to survive, and be very helpful in that way. Qui-Gon, I think would be very useful, for like peace of mind, for like, calming the emotions and everything, like being able to like meditate and find your inner peace, like find the force and everything to keep yourself calm and everything. I think would be very good to have on a deserted island, just because he could like help me train almost like I was doing like Tai Chi or meditation and everything. Stillness of mind, to where I think it would be really good as like a mentor almost to have, as well as maybe maybe as his lightsaber. Maybe he can help me hunt and kill stuff that way. Understand the ways of the Force and everything. So I think he would also be really good to have. But of course, we're not just going to keep this just to men. Maybe I'm stuck with a female actress. Um, and I actually had a hard time that the first one I is one of those to where for most of them it was like two versions I really liked, but then a lot of them I found either kept playing the same sort of role, like Mila Jovovich in like the Resident Evil movies and such, to where she plays a lot of the same characters. So it was hard to really find where it's like, who do I find one who isn't just like all comedy or like all the same sort of action? Which is why I don't have somebody like Bruce Willis on here or Keanu Reeves, to where some of them would be really good, but then at the same time, all of them are sort of the same. So I want like a well-rounded three characters, to where the last one I ended up finding was Evangeline Lilly for Toriel from the Hobbit series. Um, I have the name Kate written down. I can't for the life of me remember who it is that is. I am. Let me look that up here quickly. That way I know, because I'm blanking on it at the moment. The other one being Hope Van Dyne or Wasp. Kate. Oh, it's gonna bite me in the butt when I actually find out. Evan. Um. Oh, Kate. Yes, Kate. She was actually on Lost, so she's been on the deserted island before. She understands some of the mentality to survive. Toriel, being an elf, she knows how to survive and hunt and survive in that sort of climate as well. The other one being Hope Van Dyne or Wasp. I think maybe just being a person to help my resolve, maybe being a bit of entertainment. Maybe she has the wasp suit and she can teach me stuff like that to talk to ants. I don't know. Like I said, a lot with these women, it's like there was a couple really good ones, and then just trying to find the third, it was like, what do I really do there? Other one being Karen Gillian, because number one, I love Karen Gillian. I especially love the color of her hair. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. And there, first one being Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy, just because her mental resolve is so strong. She does not give a rip about anything. She'll be able to help me survive and hunt and stay on this narrow path of this is what we're gonna do. We're not gonna stray from it. Listen to me or you're dead. And I think that would be like, okay, I can follow that. Only because if I don't, you're just going to kill me. So she'd be able to help me there. Um, Other one being Amy Pond or Amelia Pond, just for like the entertainment value of, hey, I've been on all these adventures. I've met this guy called the Doctor and everything. That she'd just be able to help me keep me entertained and everything. It's like, oh, I remember this and this and this and that everything she's been through, like with the silence. And like the weeping angels, that she'd be able to help me with my mental resolve and everything there. The other one being for a movie that hasn't actually come out yet, but for all the other ones, because some of the other ones she's been in, I either haven't seen, like The Circle, which I really don't know what her character is, or like a horror movie like Oculus, which I don't really see the advantages of that on a deserted island, would be Ruby Roundhouse, which is her character for this Jumanji movie. And she just basically looks like a kick butt sort of gal who knows how to take care of herself and how to survive, which I think would also be advantageous with Nebula. So that would be her. My last one, though, is Jennifer Lawrence. And not just because she's popular and everybody loves her, because, I'm sort of on edge with her about how much I like her. But I think, on this sense, it would be interesting. The one I didn't really know much about was Aurora Lane from Passengers. I haven't seen Passengers yet. I want to, but just from what I can understand from it being this like deserted type sense of being stuck in space with only one other person trying to survive and adapt, that she might be helpful in that sense. Um but the main one being like Katniss Everdeen? Yes? No? Uh, it's been so long, and I didn't bother watching the last two movies because they were going to two-port it, which I thought was absolutely stupid, because two-porting that last book would not make sense at all, because literally the first at least quarter of the book is all like politics. It makes no sense at all. And then like half of the second third is just her leading a slight revolution and be like, "Ooh, I'm the Mockingjay, follow me to victory," and overruling the capital and such, and rallying the other districts. It's like, okay, and then a lot of action happens that last like half of the book. It's like, you're gonna have a very slow first part and a very like actiony second part. It's like, how are you gonna do that? And I don't know how they did, so because I haven't watched them. Maybe one day I will, but I don't know. I'm certainly not watching the rest of the Divergent series, because the mess they were going to do with that was like, no, I'm not even going to finish the books. So, yeah, this would be very advantageous. She knows how to survive. She knows how to think on the dime, be very spontaneous. Like, okay, we need to do this. She knows how to think on her feet. She can use a bow. She can help me do that. All of that would be very wonderful, very awesome. The other one being Mystique, or Raven from the X-Men series. And the reason why is not for like the sex appeal. It's like, oh, she can turn into anybody I want and everything. But that is the reason why I want her, is she can turn into anyone I want. She might not have the mental mindset of that person, or she can turn into anybody, then I have somebody to talk to. So if I'm feeling lonely, it's like, hey, I just need to talk to somebody. It's like, okay, she looks like my best friend, or my girlfriend, or my parents, or brother, or siblings, or somebody else. It's like, oh, I'm just talking to George Clooney for the heck of it or something. It's like she gives me somebody to talk to as like a listening ear. She might not like understand everything and be able to respond back, but it's like, at least I'm talking to a physical somebody, and I'm not just going out of my mind just talking to myself. I think would be very interesting, and just like how she's been able to adapt to situations and whatnot, being like an outcast or something. I think it would be very interesting to hear and everything. So yeah. So that would be my three for male and female. Of course, there's tons of others I could have done. there were some that I thought, ooh, they'd be good with these couple roles, but maybe not these other ones. Like Tom Cruise, it's like, all right, well, what do I pick there? Do I pick him as Ethan Hunt, or do I do this, or do I do this? And it's like, okay, well, what about this actor or this actress? It's like, well, what if I choose Johnny Depp for Jack Sparrow? But it's like, all right, what other 3 iterations to it? These were the ones where I was like, I thought about it a little more, and there was like 3 that were very apparent. They immediately came to mind. Um, so yes, those would be mine. So that is, of course, the last question I had there, just those couple. If you guys have more island questions, go ahead, post them in the comments below. Maybe they'll make it to another full island episode, or I'll just answer them down in the comments below. So yes. And of course, because I'm just doing this by myself, of course, I can't open up to questions for you guys to post in chat to answer here at the end. So unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there for now. Hopefully I can get everything working much better for next time for us. That way we can get everything working for the Chitty-Chat cast as well as Minecraft. Otherwise, live streams will just have to be done for a while until I can figure everything out. But anyways, I will leave you guys for the question for next time. I'll also post it on social media and everything to put it out a little more immediate versus whenever this gets uploaded. And that is, I talked about it a lot earlier because I loved it so much. And that is the theme for next time is to create your own Baby Driver movie or car driver heist. So the entire premise is you are the driver for a group of heist members or a gang of heist people. You are the car driver. You don't necessarily go out and you do the heist, but you are the driver. And so what it is you have to have at least 2 heists in this movie. First one starting off this movie or this narrative story has to start off with one, has to have at least one more. You have to have some sort of conflict or tension of why is it you're doing this, or why do you not want to do this anymore. You have to have that. You have to have either a best friend or like a love interest, maybe somebody that you sort of talk to or you know. As well as something has to go terribly wrong, either in this second or some next heist. You have to, something needs to go wrong or backfire or just do a 180. Something needs to go wrong. You have to try and solve it. And from that, either continue on with another heist or things continue to go wrong that you're trying to solve. Maybe you're trying to save the love interest, get with her, or save your best friend or whatever. It has to end with a quote unquote happy ending, or one to where you get away of some sort, to where there's not a whole lot of parameters, but you basically get to choose whether, yeah, you have a love interest, who it is you're working with, why, and what vehicles and everything. But the other thing that you have to have, and the whole reason why I call it your own Baby Driver, like narrative, is you have to have music. Because the whole thing about Baby Driver is him listening to music. Because the whole movie is basically just a soundtrack on a movie of actual music, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. If you want an idea, listen to the Baby Driver soundtrack on Spotify. All but I think 2 or 3 songs you can listen to because they're more popular ones, and so because of Spotify, you can't listen to them. So listen to that. You have to have at least 12 songs. If it's not a very long story, then maybe 10, but at least 12 or more songs. And you have to say when they're being played. You have to say what song is playing during this heist or when you're driving away. What song is playing in between heists, or what song is playing when you meet your love interest, or what is playing when you and your best friend are off doing something. You have to play it out musically and say what is happening when, because it's such a great idea. I have this wonderful idea for this story, and it's super, super cool and interesting, and I love the idea of the movie. I want to see what you guys would do. So that is the sort of theme for next time that we'll be doing. And of course, I don't know when it's going to be, and I, of course, have to write and figure all this out myself, but I think it's really cool, very interesting. So, interested to see what you guys will do as well. So, yes. Um, probably should have done this sooner, but yes. So yeah, thank you guys also very much for watching. If you try to watch this stream live, sorry for how janky it was. Things will hopefully get fixed next time. But yes, thank you guys also very much for watching the Chitty-Chat cast. Podcast dedicated to talking about random stuff because why not? I have been your host, Lego MacGyver, otherwise known as Chris Fingerberg. And yeah, I will see all of you Chitty-Chatters, Mass Builders next time. So yeah, stay bricky and keep building.